If you don't address trauma from the past, it will follow you forever. I'm going to tell you why in this video. I'm going to tell you how it follows you. I'm going to tell you how to address it. First, let me say I'm not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice. This is based on my personal experience overcoming PTSD. This is for informational, educational purposes only. So when you have trauma, what happens is if you don't resolve the experience in your mind and you just leave it there and it's unattended to, and you don't have a resolution where this thing was necessary or beneficial to you in some manner, then you're going to be reminded of it subconsciously by things that you see that are similar or have that evoke emotions that are similar to this trauma in the past. So for example, I may have been, I was sick for 10 plus years, right? And anytime I go into a doctor's office, I start feeling a little shaky. I start feeling sick, right? And it doesn't even matter. Nothing has happened yet, but I've now associated the doctor's office with this feeling, right? This is another example. When I go to restaurants, I would feel uncomfortable for years because I would go to restaurants with people and I would always have these food sensitivities that would limit me. So whenever I go to restaurants, I would feel uncomfortable for years until I got better and kind of let go of some of this trauma in the past and what had happened. The reality is your trauma is clearly affecting everything that you're doing. And if you don't deal with it from the past, then you're going to be reminded of it subconsciously in the present moment. You're going to be affected by it. You're not going to know why, but you just feel a little bit off, that thing, and you'll try to explain it and justify that thing as the reason why that you're feeling the way you are. You'll point externally at the thing that happened as the reason why you're feeling this way. But the reality is it's often just past trauma that was not dealt with. And this thing that you experienced reminded you of that past thing. And now you're in a situation where you are perceiving it as something you don't like or a threat or something because it's associated with this past event that was not dealt with. I've seen this with people. I've seen this with myself. You try to go back to, I used to go, I moved and then I went back to an old city that I lived in. And almost everywhere I went, there was another traumatic memory, because I was finally healed in this new place I had moved to, all past all these traumatic events. I went back to this old place I used to live in, and even I'd just see a street sign, and all of a sudden it would make me feel like, this thing. I'd go past, a grocery store, I'd see a park, I'd see all these things, and I'd have memories of the emotion, the predominant emotion that I felt in this city when I was living there. I thought that I could just go back to this place and be excited to see it and all that, but the reality was there was a lot of emotions that were unaddressed from the past, trauma that was unaddressed from the past that got associated with this place. And this is what's happening. You're associating your traumas with things you're seeing, places you're living, people you're around, etc. And when you see these things, they remind you of these unaddressed emotions from the past. So how do you get over these things, okay? You got to be willing to observe them first. You got to say, okay, well, what is it that's triggering me? Write it down in a journal. Write down, these things are the things that triggered me during my day. Okay, well, why would it be triggered by going into a hospital? Well, I'm being triggered because of the past, trauma I had with doctors and how I felt mistreated and led down the wrong road, etc., blah, blah, blah. Now, you have to resolve the past trauma to not be triggered in the moment now in the hospital. So I would say, hey, I'm fine now. I'm not concerned about what happened in the past. And when I go into a hospital, if I feel a little bit uncomfortable, it's because of what happened in the past. It's okay to feel that way. I'm not under threat. Nothing's wrong right now. If I do that enough when I go to the hospital, then guess what? Eventually when I go to the hospital, it doesn't feel the same way anymore because I've changed the story. I've changed the story behind the trauma that's being evoked at the hospital. This is what you have to do. You have to change the story behind the trauma, the narrative surrounding the trauma. You have to make it in some way like you either benefited from it or you accept it, and now you're okay with where you're at now, so you maybe wouldn't have got to where you're at now without the trauma. You have to be able to do this to be able to get over the trauma and get over the triggers. Otherwise, you'll be controlled by your triggers and your observations the rest of your life because they'll keep reminding you of these past events. You'll stay stuck in this constant loop of manifesting the same things that you've been manifesting, the same things over and over again. And even if it'll be different scenarios in life, they'll all feel the same, right? It'll all feel like emptiness. It'll all feel like loneliness. It'll all feel like abandonment. It'll also all feel like whatever it felt like for you. But for me, those were the ones that it felt like for me because my dad left when I was young and I never really got over it until later in life. So thanks for watching, everybody. I wanted to talk about how trauma and stress really can't control you unless you become observant of it, and how observing things specifically can evoke past memories of trauma, which can evoke emotions, feelings, physical symptoms, etc. I went through it myself for years until I finally realized what was happening, broke free of it. Go to my website, endsickness.org, and I got hundreds of articles, hundreds of videos about healing yourself from chronic illness, trauma, autoimmune disease, mast cell activation, etc. Thanks for watching.